evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me. Down the inside, absolutely impossible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
Here we are, and welcome everyone. Welcome to PSGL, welcome to PCF4, and welcome to the final race of the season of the game F1 25, where we finally see things decided here in F4. Still two drivers that can take the title, so we've got an interesting one on our hands. My name is Mitsky, I'll be your host for tonight. Later on, we might see Joseph joining us. We'll probably see him joining us later on during the session, somewhere mid-quali or somewhere during the race. But at the start, you'll have to stick with me and see how things progress. Because as I already mentioned, we have a title fight on our hands still. So we're going to Jeddah tonight, and these are the standings that we go round 10 into. So we do see Ryan Jacobs leading the championship. We see a couple of promoted drivers in between. The only driver that can still challenge him is Tom Wolfgram. Tom is 13 points down, meaning that he needs a race win to even be up in contention with Ryan. However, if he does score pole position tonight, a second place will suffice as well in the event that Ryan does not score any points. For Ryan, his task is to score at least 5 points, or if Tom doesn't get a qualifying pole, he needs 4 points, because Ryan has no race wins. For Tom, it's 2, which means that he will need to outscore him by at least a point. So 4 or 5 points is what Ryan needs to do here today. As for Tom, as we already said, pretty much minimum a race win, and with a pole position, a second place might do as well. Now let's, at least for me, go back into the lobby. Looks like we have 18 drivers currently in the lobby. Of course, our main contenders are in this lobby too. We have Tom Wolfgram in the Ferrari, and we have Ryan Jacobs in the Racing Bulls. Aside from that, tonight racing will be DeMichael, Bennett Hayter, Jonas Orpel, Kasper Jedrzejczyk, Inversizo, Josh Rothwell, Victor Garcia, Pesci, Alessandro Finn, Takubi, Spezzi, Gabriel Moya, Axel, Formula Guy, Tom 97, Redmers, and that's it, at least for now. Looks like they were just chatting to see whether everyone is in. They mentioned that Redmers, well, he's just joined. So I think everyone is in the lobby, and we're going to get this underway. In the meantime, in the chat, let us know who you are supporting for this race in Saudi around the Jeddah Corniche street circuit. Do you think that Ryan Jacobs is going to take the title, or do you think that in the chance that is still there, Tom Wolfgram is going to clutch it away from him with a race win in the final race? We are about to find out. We're about to hop into qualifying, where 18 drivers are going to take to this 6.1 kilometer track, 27 turns, the most out of any F1 track on the calendar. So it's going to be a very intense one, and as you know here, qualifying, a mistake will cost you. You'll be in a wall and you'll be out of the session too. Most of our drivers will be doing 3 runs as you're used to. They'll be going for fresh tires with that as well. And in about 25 seconds from now, I'll be able to change the screen for you so you can see the drivers out there on track. If you wish for me to follow any of the drivers during their qualifying lap, do let me know as well in the chat. Otherwise, I'll make sure to prioritize our championship competitors. So that's Tom Wolfgram and Ryan Jacobs. That means now we can go to our race overlay. I'll make sure to put the lap data and the track map on, and then hide all the other things. So we wait, of course, qualifying in the dark. And we'll wait for any of the 18 drivers to leave pit lane to get this qualifying session started. I believe I see a Williams leaving pit lane. No, it's an Aston Martin actually, so that might be Josh Rothwell. It is Josh Rothwell indeed. So keep an eye for him, out for him at the start of this session. Of course, there's many laps and minutes still to go. A little over 17 minutes that we have as this session has just started. And he's now making his way through the twisty first sector during his warm-up lap. You can see he's running a little bit higher gears to make sure that he's warming up those tires nicely. But during qualifying his full run, he is going to be flying through that first sector. Into this one of the hard braking zones. Let's go back to fourth, sometimes even fifth gear before taking it out nicely close to the wall and really optimize your track position here. Make sure to optimize it so much, go close to the walls, drive in as much as a straight line as you can to basically keep your car at the shortest distance so that you cover less meters and you'll be faster. That is what a lot of these drivers are doing, and in the meantime many of them are also leaving pit lane, and it looks like just Ryan Jacobs is in pit lane. Tom Wolfgram has gone out on track, so we'll be watching him momentarily. Ryan has now joined them in pit lane still. Axel, Redmers, Spezzi, and that's it because Formula Kai has just left pit lane. But let's watch Josh Rothwell as he is going to kick things off for this final qualifying session in F1 25 here at PSGL PC F4. So he's already optimizing his placement on the track, trying to take as much speed through there, try to go as wide as you can there. Seems to be a pretty good first sequence of corners, but now comes the tricky part. How fast can you go through that first sector? So far it looks to be quite nice. The car seems glued to the track. That is definitely what you want here. Sixth gear he flies through. Little moment there as he has to correct, but coming through cleanly in the first sector and setting at 13.16 as the first sector time. Braking down to fourth gear, shifting up early to sixth, and then now you see him making optimal usage of the track. Good corner there, very close to the wall, no corrections needed as he makes his way to the end of the second sector. This is where you want to be under that 1 minute mark, and I think he will do so quite nicely. Yes, that's a 59.3. Perhaps lower 59s is what we'll be going for in the final few runs, but a very clean second sector from Josh as he now makes his way towards the end of the lap. This is the second DRS zone in the race. Detection for the final one. And here we go then. Just the main straight left. Don't bin it in the wall there. Take the closer line. Try to go as much as you can, and there we go. First lap out there, a 1:25.825, but we're immediately going to jump to Tom Wolfgram, who has just started his lap. So we know the sector times. 31.6 is what Tom will be gunning for in the first sector, and then it will be a 59.3 in the second one. First sector, Tom Wolfgram, 31.7, matching Josh Rothwell's time. And Versizel set a lap time in the meantime that's 3/10 off, so it shows that Josh really set a great benchmark here with the first lap out there. More drivers are about to approach the start-finish line. Victor Garcia comes through at a 26.2, but we're still watching Tom Wolfgram. He's approaching the end of the second sector. 59.3 is what we're going for provisional pole, and we reach 59.5, so that's almost 2/10 off. Goes a little bit wide as Takubi's now the fastest man out there, half a tenth quicker than Josh Rothwell, going into the 25.7s with Demaiko and Jeddah coming through in third and fourth with 26.0 and 26.1. But with this lap, Tom Wolfram seems to be gunning for around about the time that Demaiko set earlier on. So not as fast as Takubi and Josh. Actually, losing a lot of time in the final sector as well. Only P7 for Tom Wolfgram in his first run. For Ryan Jacobs, he did a 59.4 in that second sector. That is quite good. And with the 26.0, 29.6 is what we'll be gunning for in the final sector. So not as fast as Takubi and Josh. Actually, losing a lot of time in the final sector as well. Only P7 for Tom Wolfgram in his first run. For Ryan Jacobs, he did a 59.4 in that second sector. That is quite good. And with the 26.0, No? Did he invalidate? I think he invalidated because 26-0 would have put him right on 4th or 5th place. And he seems to be... Yeah. He slowed down, so he has invalidated. Probably at a very late stage because I did not see the red marker there. But Ryan Jacobs invalidated, but showing already that in that middle sector, he is a couple of tenths quicker than we saw Tom Wolfgram do. So key there. But here comes Redmers, the last one to complete his first run. He goes 13th fastest with a 26.2. A lot of drivers in a 26 1s and 2s. That starts at P5 going all the way up to P13. A couple of drivers have invalidated or not completed their runs. A few have already gone back into pit lane, and that rounds off our first set of runs. 2 more to go. So far, this hour of Takubi, quickest with a 125.784. See if we can spot any of the drivers leaving pit lane. Cannot imagine that Ryan is going to go for another run. I think he's just going to go back to pit lane quite slowly. But the pressure will be on to him more now because he had a pretty decent run, but invalidating means that you don't have that banker set just yet. So his next lap will be the banker. The pressure will be on there because if he can't set a banker there, then his final run will be a do or die run, and that is not what you want right here in the championship fight. Overtaking here is quite easy, but being in these DRS trains that you have with the DRS chicken that we will see during DRS zones 2 and 3 will make it very tricky to keep track position as well, especially if you've got a train. Then it's even more difficult to overtake. So a key qualifying session here for Ryan. Same goals for Tom. As we mentioned, if Tom gets pole position here tonight, he makes his life a little bit easier, getting that extra point. If he doesn't, he will need to win the race. Otherwise, regardless of what happens, Ryan will be your new champion. Meantime, both of the Aston Martins are back out on track. We saw Josh Rothwell do his lap earlier on, and this time I'll try to keep more of an eye on Casper. Although Josh, of course, only half a tenth off now of the provisional pole set by Takubi, and I think we will go faster in this second run. I think we might be going into the 0.5s, maybe high 0.4s. There should be a bit of improvement left on the track, but not all too much. Also, let us know who you think is going to take pole position. So far, Takubi and Josh have come closest. But, of course, we still have to see from our championship competitors, Tom Wolfgram and Ryan Jacobs. Tom currently P9, Ryan Jacobs down the table as he invalidated on his first run. Let's at least go over to Josh as he starts his second lap. Victor Garcia has received a penalty for blocking. That means we're going to get a restart, most likely after this qualifying session. Now, we saw that Josh had a really good second sector last lap out. So 31.6, I believe, is what we are gunning for in the first sector. After that, we're going to swap to his teammate to see how fast he goes around that first sector. But I think in the first sector, there was a little bit of time to gain. Had a slide. That's a big moment. That's almost a Mick Schumacher. Thankfully, he keeps it out of the big bits of the wall. But that was a huge moment from Josh Rothwell, and that surely means damage to the car. And run 2 is over. Kasper Dragic does do that a little bit better. 31.5, so he is faster out there in the first sector. A tenth already up on his own lap. That would put him on par with Bennett Hayter, currently in P3. But for Kasper, there should be time to gain in that middle sector. Let's go on board with the Aston Martin man. This is a key corner. Had to correct there a little bit. His entry was just a little bit too early, but it didn't cost him all too much time. So he continues on, keeping it close to the wall. Minimum track used. He does lose a little bit, but still 10th up on his own lap time. With a 59.3, it shows that there is some time to gain in that middle sector. Now then, final sector. Lost a little bit of time there on his first run. There's so many cars out there about to start their laps or being in the way of Casper. Thankfully doesn't hurt him too much. He's taking a wider line though, and he comes across the line in a 26-0, so he wins a little bit in that final sector, but it's only enough to gain 1 place. Takubi was slower in that first sector, but he already set a 31.5 on his first run, so it shows that he's quite on there, on par with his previous lap. And now in the middle sector, this is where you need to find the key, and that's what he does. A 10th quicker, a huge moment coming out of the left-hander, and that is lap done for Takubi as well. You know, as Orpo has just come through, he's gone for a massive improvement. Bennett Hayter is up almost a 10th in the first sector as well. He's now making his way to the fast right-hander. Having a little bit of a moment there as well, but not costing him too much time either. As soon as we stop following Bennett, we're going to go over to, well, I think Tom Wolfgram just set a lap time a little bit quicker. Look at that, Bennett. Oh, touches the wall. That is lap over for the Williams. A lot of mistakes being made here, but so easy to make a mistake as well. And we see it happen time and time again. Here is Ryan Jacobs. But I'm not sure if he's still quite on there, but he is pushing it to the max. So let's watch it. 20. It's gonna be close. Gonna be tight. Can he get closer? He goes to P6. So he is ahead of Tom Wolfgram at 25.9. But it's only about a 10th quicker than in his invalidate lap. So I think there's still more time to be gained for Ryan. And perhaps our optimism was a bit too much, hoping we could get into the 25.5s. As so far, the provisional pole lap time has not been beaten. Redmers has gone for a massive improvement into P3. I'm not sure who else is still out there on track. Looks like the Ferraris are still there, but Tom and Jonas have already set a lap time. Not sure if Bennett... Yeah, Bennett Hayter has gone for one as well. DeMichael has done his run. I think our drivers are already done with their second run, so we've seen a couple of jumps. For Ryan now, it means that he is 7th. Tom Wolfgram in P11, but like we said, Tom really needs that pole position here tonight to make his hopes for a title in PCF4 a little bit easier. For Ryan, he knows what he needs to do if it finishes as is, and that is a P7 in a race at minimum. The P7 at minimum is, of course, if Tom Wolfgram wins the race. If Tom Wolfgram does not win the race, then Ryan Jacobs wins by default. Drivers are now all heading back into pit lane. Everyone has set a lap. Most of them are quite competitive. We went from most lap times in the 26 1s and 2s to most laps in the 0.89s and 0s. So we're improving a bit. I think we're going to see another 10s of improvements. We should go quicker than Takubi's current fastest lap time. But we also have to keep it between those white lines. That really is the key thing to do in tonight's quali. That's not easy, with 27 laps coming at you in only 75 seconds. Now, before we saw the Astons leave pit lane first, I can imagine that we're going to see similar things. We'll keep an eye out at the front of the pit lane so we can see them leave. We currently have 3 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock, so we still have a little bit of time. And Bennett here goes back into pit lane. I do hear a little bit of noise. Looks like an Alpine is leaving pit lane. That might be and a Ferrari, so that could be Alessandro Finn or Inversizo. It is Inversizo. Tom Wolfgram is still not out, but Jonas Orpel has gone out on track. I actually want to watch Jonas here, teammate of the man that can still take the title, but he's gone for a very fast first and second run. He's now a 10th off of pole position. And I think Jonas can beat the time that Takubi has currently set. Whether it will be good enough for pole position or not, We will find out in about 2.5 minutes. But he definitely has what it takes to get on top of the timing sheets. More and more drivers are leaving pit lane. In the meantime, Ryan Jacobs is out there on track 2. Let's see how far up he is. He seems to be right around the mid-pack. Tom Wolfgram also left it. He's a couple cars behind. Only one behind now as he jumped one of the Mercedes. And now last driver, Redmers, is also leaving pit lane. But yeah, with about 2 minutes left on the clock, it should be enough time, ample time left for his final run. So we're about to get this started. Let us know in the chat who you think is going to take pole position here tonight. It's going to be a close one. A lot of drivers can't take it. But the pole will be also important for Tom Wolfgram. He needs to take pole position to make his life a lot easier during the race. He's 13 points down on championship leader Ryan Jacobs, who's currently ahead of him in this qualifying session. But let's go on board with Tom's teammate, that is Jonas Orpel, as he gets underway for his third and final run. So far P5 for the 25.876 was his fastest lap. He needs to improve by 10th if he wants to go and move up to top of the timing sheets. Trying to take it carefully through turns 1 and 2 as he follows away nicely through turn 3. Diving hard into turn 4, keeping a good line there. And the car seems to be glued to the track nicely too. Now keep the gears up through in 6th. Don't have a moment here. That seems to be all clean. Good first sector from Jonas. But it's not quicker than he did before, and it is a 10th down on all the other drivers. So that should indicate, or could indicate, rather, that he has set his car up for a little bit more top speed. So giving away some time in Sector 1, but getting that back in Sector 2. And look at that, that's a beautiful right-left combination from Jonas. There surely must be an improvement down in that second sector. He's about to reach that sector time now. And he is indeed up by a 10th. That was a great middle sector. Now the final sector needs to keep it together. If he improves only a little bit, he will be faster than Takubi and take over provisional pole for now. But is he fast enough? Just one corner left to go. Putting it in nicely. Tapping the wall ever so slightly. Doesn't hurt his time. Keep that car close. Keep it close to the white lines. And across the line, Jonas goes. It's P2. Just not enough for pole position. Victor Garcia still in P7. But I want to go to Ryan Jacobs. He was just ahead of Tom Wolfgram. The flag is out. Ryan Jacobs, middle sector. He's down a 10th. He is not going to improve on his current lap. As for Tom Wolfgram, is over a second down. Tom Wolfgram is not going to get pole position. Takubi has taken the checkered flag as Sandro Finn has come through already. Josh Rothwell to the top of the timing sheets with a 1:25.617. Kasperian Drajcik now moving up into second. That's a 1-2 for Aston Martin. But will it stay this way? We still have DeMichael. He's up by a 10th too. Great run so far. And this could be good enough for P2. Can he split the Astons and put his car on front row? We see more and more laps come through. Ryan Jacobs is in P10 at the moment. Tom Wolfgram in P14. Looks like our championship protagonists have to start from the back. Here comes DeMichael. P5 is the best he can do. Only 2,000 slower than Takubi. And Victor Garcia has gone second fastest. But I believe we still have Redmers out there on track. The last man to cross the line. And he does not improve either. For Alessandro Finn and Jonas Orpel, there's not another lap in it. So that's qualifying session for you. Josh Rothwell takes pole position. Your championship leader starts in P12. And your championship protagonist, Tom Wolfgram, in P14. That was a great lap though from Josh. We already saw that he was glued on it in the first couple of runs. Very fast there. Couldn't get much of an improvement in that second run, but that final run, it all came together. 2/10ths quicker than his previous best, and a 10th better than anyone else out there on track. Great run by Josh. We're currently waiting to see. All the drivers have taken the checkered flag. Finn is in pit lane. And Versizo has left the session. So we'll have to wait until we see the full timing sheets. There they're going to come. As here we are with the man on pole position. Josh Rothwell will be starting for front row, getting that extra point that Tom Wolfgram would so desperately need. But Josh Rothwell's taking it. Joining him front row is Spezzi. Then row 2, Victor Garcia for Red Bull and Kasper Jadrzejczyk in the other Aston Martin. Then it's Bennett Hayter, Takubi, DeMichael, Jonas Orpel, Alessandro Finn. And rounding off your top 10 is Redmers. Then in P11, Gabriel Moya. Championship leader Ryan Jacobs in P12. And it's Pesci, Tom Wolfgram, Impreciso, Tom 97, Formula Kai, and Axel in P18. So that means we have a little bit of time to go back to our camera view. I think we are going to get a restart. Ryan is already calling that because of the penalty. Oh no. I just want you to see this, okay? We're going to go back into the game. I think the drivers are going to be very happy. I'm going to show you this nonetheless. We would have had a wet race. We would have had a wet race if it wasn't for that penalty. That is a shame to see. That would have been an extremely interesting race. But sadly, we are not going to get that. We're going to go for a lobby restart. So I'll be waiting for Tom to initiate that. And I think in a moment, Joseph will be joining us, if I'm not mistaken. Joseph is already here. Joseph, welcome.
Hello, yes. Fashionably late as always, but of course ready to get going with some F4 action. Qualifying is at its end, and hopefully we'll get the chance to see what will be happening in the race. But yeah, managed to catch the end of qualifying. Looked pretty decent in the end with Josh Rothwell, of course, with that very good lap. To snatch it away from Spezzi by over a 1/10 of a second, and the Victor Garcia, Kasper Jadrzejczyk, Bennett Hayter, Tsukubi and D'Amico split by 0.014. I think we're in for a very good race indeed.
Yeah, we're in for a very good race indeed. I'm not sure if you caught it at the end of the session, because we did load into the game, of course. We're going to have a lobby restart, but if we did not have a lobby restart, it would have been pouring at race start. So I think a lot of the drivers are going to be happy with that, Joseph.
Yeah, I think they will, because funnily enough, Jeddah's not one of those tracks that you expect rain at. So for them to have rain at this point, I think would have been very unexpected. So they wouldn't have been practiced, they wouldn't have been prepared. Some drivers, though, would have been happy to see the rain, because it would be the great equaliser. So I think it's a little bit of both for these drivers here today. So mixed feelings for them all, but of course, we could still get it in the main session itself. You never quite know, but I think the chances of rain around Jeddah are about 2 out of 10, so about 20%. So I'm thinking it's unlikely.
I think it's quite unlikely indeed. I must say that 20% is still quite high for a track in, well, pretty much the middle of the desert. We're currently waiting for the lobby to be restarted. We're about to be booted back into the lobby. I think you'd be able to get the invite, well, be able to join off of me, right?
Yes, indeed. I'm in the lobby, ready to go.
Perfect.
Ready to watch the 25-lap race around Jeddah.
That sounds lovely. So that means we have a little bit of time to talk about the track that we'll be racing at tonight. So I'm going to give you the pre-race info before we get this underway. So we'll be driving tonight the final race of the season, the Jeddah Kearney Street Circuit, 6.1 kilometers or 3.8 miles, located 12 kilometers north of the city center of Jeddah. 27 turns with 3 DRS zones and a pit lane time loss of 23 seconds. But more crucially, an average speed in qualifying of 245 kilometers an hour or 151 miles per hour. And that, Joseph, is insanely fast.
Oh, it very much is. It's a very fast-flowing circuit, is Jeddah, so it'll be very good to watch the racing around here. It will be a risk for all of the drivers to make their moves, but of course they will try to make their moves. The championship coming to a close, and so they will be going for it hammer and tongs. Not only will the championship leaders be giving it a go to fight it out and duke it out for that top spot at the end of the day when everything's said and done, but also those drivers slightly further back are going to be knowing that there's not really much to lose.
No, and I think what doesn't help is that championship leader Ryan starts in P12. 2 places behind him is only a championship competitor in the name of Tom Wolfgram. But as Tom didn't take pole position, means that Tom needs to get a race win in order to have any chance of beating Ryan in the title. If he does not get a race win here tonight, Ryan wins the championship outright. So Ryan has done most of the heavy lifting with his consistency throughout the season, but Tom's very strong run in the last 3 races with a race win, and a P3 has still put him in here, Joseph. But it really looks like it's Ryan's to lose here tonight.
It very much does. It very much does indeed. And of course, those drivers who got promoted won't have the opportunity to duke it out for that. Oliver Knott, Rafael Kunch and Lawrence Patton, they looked set for a very strong fight for the title, but now it is down to Tom and Ryan, as you say. And I mean, Ryan just needs consistent results to continue for himself. But Tom Wolfgram, of course, 13 points behind, so anything could happen for him. Pole position did not go to either of them here tonight, of course, because it went to Josh Rothwell, who's looking for his 3rd top 10 of the season. But Tom Wolfgram, if he wins, then Ryan Jacobs needs to find himself within the top 8. Other than that, it's going to be all down to what Tom Wolfgram can do. So high stakes for the German, and he's going to be trying to run home with something here tonight. But as you say, as we saw on the stream a couple of minutes ago, both of them starting further back in the order, with Tom Wolfgram starting from 14th place, and well, Ryan Jacobs starting from 12th. So both outside the top 10. I think both might try and take a gamble here and go for maybe an unconventional strategy.
Yeah, they definitely need to try something different. I mean, for Tom, everything is on the line. He can go flat out, go all or nothing. He needs to win the race, otherwise he won't take the title. So that is the only thing that he can do here tonight. I must say, though, I'm very surprised to see how well Josh did. Josh shunted the car in his second run, almost had a qualifying ending mistake at the end of the first sector, kept it out of the wall, prepared the car in pit lane, and then came out to take pole by over a tenth. So that was very impressive from Josh. In the meantime, let's see. Joseph, are you able to get it to... Yes, everything seems to be set now. So that means that our drivers will be readying up for the race, the final race of the season, the final race of this F1 25 iteration. And then we can be looking forward to the DLC updates, whatever you want to call it, for F1 26. Joseph, are you excited for that?
Oh, very much excited. I think it's going to be a DLC that will define this game, really, because of course EA has over the last couple of years been under the cosh in terms of their promotion and creation of the F1 games. I don't personally think F1 25 is too bad. I'm not at this level. If I was at this level, then I wouldn't have to switch to spectator mode, so we could get going. But of course, these drivers will have a stronger opinion than me. They'll have a better opinion than me, and well, as I say, F1 26 will define, I think, EA's time with the F1 games, because it's been very topsy-turvy. Of course, we've gone, you go back in the day, they had a couple of very, very good games. They've had a couple that have had higher media speculation and higher negative press, but if F1 26 bangs, well, then everyone forgets.
Yeah, and I think what also helps is that taking this extra year to go for a new fully polished game means that you have some more time to put a more finished product, I don't think it's the right way to say, but a more polished product, one that the drivers will be much happier with. Although I must agree with you, Joseph, that F1 25 is not too bad at all if we look at some of the predecessors that we've had seasons for. But in the meantime, we are getting ready to load into the lobby. Currently loading in nicely. And as soon as Tom97 has loaded in, we are going to see the lobby. And then I will face from my face over to the pit lane. And as you can see, this time out, it is dry as a bone. So no rain this time round, Joseph.
Yeah, no rain, unfortunately. So we won't be getting that the rain that we had in the first rendition of the race, but of course, because there was a 5-place grid penalty even, we had to restart. So no rain, but of course we'll still get the race underway, excuse me, very, very soon indeed. And the last race of the season, I think, regardless of the rain conditions, is going to be a banger.
I think regardless, indeed, this is one of the tracks where it's very likely that we're going to see a safety car, especially at a race start. It's pretty likely that an incident does occur because the track is quite tight at some places, and because it's so high speed, you probably want to go, at least at some point, to go for some unconventional overtaking opportunities, and that could end your race quite early as well. So it's a bit of a gamble that you can or must take. For some drivers, a gamble that you must take. For Ryan, he knows P8 will be enough for him to secure the title tonight, if I'm not mistaken. No, P7, sorry. P7 is what he needs. He will get 4 points from P7, means he'll be 17 points ahead, because Tom, of course, has 2 race wins to his name. And yeah, as we mentioned, time and time again, Tom Wolfgram will need to win this race from P14, otherwise the title goes to Ryan Jacobs anyways.
Certainly will. There is pressure on for Tom Wolfgram here today to perform, and of course he's not had the greatest of starts to what looks like an underdog story in terms of his chase for the title. But yeah, I think it's going to be very unlikely that he will be able to topple, but anything could happen in sim racing.
Yes, we of course have seen crazier things out there, but for tonight, F4 will be defined by this final race. We've seen a great season throughout. We of course had those, perhaps you could call it unfortunate promotions that robbed us of a championship fight between Raphael, Oliver Nutt, and perhaps even Lawrence Patton and Ryan Jacobs. But instead, we still have a championship on our hands for the final race of the season. So I'm very happy to see that. The championship had not been decided just yet, but we're going to see that decided tonight. 25 laps around the Jeddah Carnegie Street circuit, with the race surely about to be started.
25 laps of, well, very good action. I would imagine it's going to be a one-stop strategy, most likely, for all of the drivers out there, with, I think, the ones at the back will be aiming more for the hard compound tyres, everybody else aiming for a set of the mediums right at the top of the field, although Josh Rothwell and Spetsy at the moment do have the hard compound tyre selected. It is a viable strategy around here to go hard medium, and you just have to be able to take your opportunities of overtakes when you're handed them.
Yeah, we have to see if some drivers perhaps go for some unconventional setups. You know how much grip you want at the start of the race not to lose track position. So I would imagine most drivers are at least going to choose for the mediums. I'm not sure if anyone would dare to go for a softs and maybe go for a two-stopper, but I think that might be too risky. I see a lot of mediums with 4 and 5 red lights. Away we are for the final race of the season. Redmer's already seen a drive-through penalty for a jump start, but Josh Rothwell is on his way nicely, and he keeps the lead at least for now. Let's go down the field a little bit. Tom Wolfgram and Ryan Jacobs are already close to each other on track. Ryan had just lost the position, but has regained that space now from Pesci, as Tom Wolfgram fighting tooth and nail with Formula Kai. Our competitors still P12 and 14 where they started. Up ahead in the field, I don't think too many places have changed so far.
No, it doesn't seem to be the case at the moment, as well, if we have a look at the position changes, only Gabriel Moya and Redmond have swapped in the Formula Car, gaining 2, Axel gaining 1, and then Indeciso dropping 3 positions down to the very bottom of the field. In terms of the tyres then, as we mentioned, Tom Wolfgram has gone for something different. You'd expect him to go for the hards outside the top 10, but instead he has gone for a set of the medium compound of tyres. The 2 creators in this series, Tom 97 and Formula Kai, go side by side. Tom 97 is going to get ahead in the end, and he'll be up into 15th place. Indeciso trying to go for a move on Axel in the background of those 2, and Axel's going to be squeezed off the track. Surely a warning for the AMS driver, as Indeciso is going to make his way through, and Josh Rothwell looks as though he's going to take us to the end of the first lap. Spetsy follows through, and Victor Garcia only just within the DRS.
Yeah, it's getting very close in ties now. Tom Wolfgram has gained a position onto Pesci as well on the straight. They're already side by side as they go. I see Pesci diving into pit lane, so surely there must have been some contact earlier. Oh, it's Retmer, sorry, who has retired. Also speeding in the pit lane now. Tom Wolfgram banging wheels with Pesci. Of course, it's still very much out there on track. Tom Wolfgram now on the inside line, but Pesci is still fighting back now. The next turn will be to the left. Off the track Pesci goes, and he will need to let Tom Wolfgram go. Tom now up in P12. Ryan is his next target, and he needs 11 more cars to overtake with 23 laps to go. Can he do it?
Well, he's certainly going to try and do it, you would imagine, as well, Redman's already out of the session. He's decided to call his season early. He's come into the pit lane, and he will be trying to well, make up for it onto the next season. Victor Garcia outside of the DRS, but he has just about clung onto it, onto Spezzi, as they head through the second sector complex, so he's just about going to be inside it. But I think by the time they make it to the final corner, Victor Garcia will not be in the DRS, the top two, managing to streak away from the rest of the field. But you can see the AMR driver pushing to try and remain within it at this point in the race. Lap number 3 is about to get underway, and Rothwell leads the way. Spezzi in second place, and Tom Wolfgram is not making the progress he would have hoped to on those medium compounder tyres. But of course, he won't with Ryan Jacobs right up ahead of him. He'll provide the most insane defensive rear guard as Kasper Jedrzejczyk tries to keep within the DRS of the top two. He makes his way past Victor Garcia. Wolfgram not able to get close enough to Ryan Jacobs in the meantime, so he waits in behind. Formula Kai did have a look down the inside of Pesci turn 1, so there are moves potentially threatening, but none just yet.
No, with that overtake from Kasper onto Victor, he's hoping to close that gap down once more so that the entire field is back in that one and the same DRS train. We're now on board with the Ferrari of Tom Wolfgram as he's trying to chase down his main competitor, and he knows he will need to clear him as quickly as possible if he wants to have any hopes of getting to the top of the timing tables and take that race win later on as we approach our final couple of laps. We're still early on, third lap that we're now on. Tom goes a little bit wide in that right left-hander, and the gap for now seems to be just too much with 5/10ths. So that means we're going to go back and jump back up to the front, because Spezzi seems to be a little bit quicker than Josh Rothwell in these early stages of the race, but so far hasn't really gone for an opportunity to try and overtake him. I think he just wants to stay put.
He's more than happy to wait at the moment, but he was 4/10ths quicker on the last lap, and that's why he's waiting in behind the Aston Martin. So it's quite a surprise that he's happy to wait in behind for the time being, but also he doesn't want to burn those tyres out too much. I think Kasper Jedrzejczyk is going to join the fight for the top two, while Victor Garcia drops out of the DRS once again. So the Red Bull not able to keep pace at the moment as Pesci leaves the session, and through goes Formula Kai on the Mercedes in the meantime. Bennett Hader, the latest driver to overtake Victor Garcia. So I think the Red Bull was a little bit higher than he would have been expecting, and a little bit higher than his pace would represent, because Jedrzejczyk's been able to make his way into the DRS of Spezzi and Rothwell, and I'd imagine Hader will soon.
Yeah, we saw that Victor Garcia fell outside the DRS window immediately in that same lap that he was overtaken by Kasper. So it shows that he's currently not on par with the drivers up ahead. And we saw that Takubi was very fast in his early couple runs, and will be very tough for Victor to keep Takubi behind. For now, Bennett Hader is still outside of the DRS window with Jedrzejczyk up ahead. If he can close that down now in the next sector, then Victor might see a problem as Pesci has managed to rejoin now at the back of the grid, sadly in P17. It gap 2 seconds down on Inversiso. But looks like for now Victor Garcia can at least stay within touching distance of Bennett Hader, but behind him Takubi seems to be already a bit quicker. It looks like that left-right hander was not too great from Victor Garcia. Takubi is getting very close. Is he already going to go for a move into turns 27? It looks like he has to hold off with Garcia covering off the inside nicely. Hader has not managed to catch up with Jedrzejczyk, so Garcia surely will come back on him. And for Takubi, it's a task to try and get both. Can he do so? He's using all of the battery power that he can. Almost 3 wide they could have gone, but good defensive from Hader too, as he's using his battery to stay ahead of Garcia behind. And Takubi can't find his way round past the outside of Garcia. And now has to watch his rear mirrors because DeMico is approaching fast.
D'Amico is going to try and give it a go on Takubi here, as close as he possibly can get at the moment, as well, he tries to make the most of those medium compounder tyres, tries to make his way further up the order so that those hard compound tyre runners further back aren't going to be able to really extract all of their pace and catch up to the cars in front. D'Amico 2/10 off the back of Takubi at the moment, and is continuing to try and chip away at that gap. Tom 97 out of the DRS of Tom Wolfgram, so I'd imagine the Formula car is going to try and catch up to the V-Carb very soon. The V-Carb, though, it won't be applying pressure, crucially, to Tom Wolfgram, who is going to be trying to make his way through on Ryan Jacobs. He is pushing a little bit at this point, is the Ferrari, but the V-Carb is basically trying to match what Tom Wolfgram's doing, knowing that later on in this stint he will be the faster of the two.
Yeah, I think at this point Ryan will be very happy with how the race is progressing, despite him being in P11, because he sees the top three have already gone a 2.2 second lead out on the rest of the pack. Ryan now was for a moment at risk of getting outside a second of Gabriel Moya, who's currently ahead of him, but Tom Wolfgram hasn't really been able to challenge him just yet for that P11, and up ahead the gaps stay as they are. No overtakes made just yet, but I think Axel and Formula Kai are currently fighting, because Axel has gone ahead of Formula Kai crucially in P14. Let's see if he can close down the gap with Tom 97 once more, and well, make sure that he stays within that DRS range. But seeing that Formula Kai is now dropping behind the hard runners, I think, Joseph, the hards are now starting to be the quicker compound out of the two.
I think it's pretty equal, but Formula Car just doesn't quite have the pace of the rest of the drivers at the moment, which is why he's finding himself dropping off just that little bit at the moment. And, well, Bennett Hader dropping off the back of the top three as well. So all that talk that I did about Victor Garcia just a couple of minutes ago does actually not quite represent exactly what's happening out on track, because of the fact that Bennett Hader hasn't actually been able to get that gap done over the last couple of laps. He's just remained in position for the time being. Lap 6 of 25, so as you say, I think it's going to be the crossover point very soon between the hards and the medium compound of tyre. And I think we'll be seeing a lot of the drivers starting to think about their pit strategies, chatting with their engineers and seeing whether it's going to be a viable one to come in on the next couple of laps. So I think it will be. I think that they're going to go for a number of laps. It will be next lap onto lap number 8, but the pit window will open.
Yeah, one driver that this may be very good for is Tom Wolfgram. He needs to try and do something different if he wants to get past the drivers up ahead and try to still get that race win. For now, it doesn't seem like he has the pace to match the top three, who are clearly a couple of tenths quicker than pretty much anyone else out there on track. As we're currently watching Gabriel Moya, who seem to be getting closer to Alessandro Finn in Sector 1 and 2, but then backed off a bit more in Sector 3, so still unable to overtake the medium runners up ahead. Moya being the first of the hard runners out there in P10, followed closely by Ryan Jacobs, another one of the hard runners. We had 6 drivers in total start on the hards. The other 13 started on the mediums, and yeah, the entire top 9 is on those mediums. But Gabriel Moya is getting very close to the back of that Alpine of Alessandro Finn. Let's see if this lap is a lap where he can finally do it.
Yeah, he's going to hope that it is going to be a chance to make his way through on the Alpine now, as I think it is very much time for the strategies to switch and for him to make his way ahead and up a position into that 9th spot. But he has to get close to Alessandro Finn before he even thinks about that overtake, and that looks to be a little bit harder said, or a little bit easier said than done even. I don't remember the last time I actually got that saying correctly. Lap 8 of 25, and well, we are already breezing through this race. We're a third of the way through the final round of the PSGL F4 campaign, and Gabriel Moya ready to go for a move on as Alessandro Finn, but he has to get close enough through one of the points on this circuit. Dare I say it, the main overtaking spot is going to be down at the end of the first sector, just because of the fact that some drivers will be taking that section a little bit poorer than others, and that can be an opportunity to pounce upon more than any other.
Yeah, so very difficult spot to overtake out there on track, but surely the drivers know with what's on the line, they can try and at least do so. And indeed, Moya tries to have a cheeky look down the inside, but not far enough alongside to try and make that move safe, but showing that he is quicker. The previous lap, he fell back quite a bit in that third sector. This time around, he did not, and he's still as close behind the Alpine as he was before. Maybe now, with a little bit of overspeed, he can get past. He's pushing that Alpine pretty much, as he's now following in the tracks of that Alpine. But Gabriel Moya surely is quicker than the drivers up ahead. Of course, is on the harder set of compounds. Those tires are definitely working better than the mediums up ahead, and he needs to find a place and a way through on Alessandro Finn. Can he do so already? Has to hold off just yet. Defensive drive-in from Alessandro Finn. That will compromise his exit out of turn 27. Down into pit lane goes Takubi, I believe. The first one out there on track to go for a pit stop. Does Tom Wolfgram follow? Tom Wolfgram does not follow. Moya now pushed to the outside and still can't get past Alessandro Finn. And now Ryan Jacobs is about to have a cheeky look on the Sauber man.
Yeah, Ryan Jacobs wants to give it a go on Gabriel Moya and put a car in between himself and his championship rival Tom Wolfram, but at the moment he's finding that a little bit easier said than done. Managed to get the statement right for once, as the hard compound tyre is ready to fight with the hard compound tyre runner, but they also do have to think about all the cars in behind and the ones that will be wanting to get through and the ones that will be wanting to maximise the pace in the final part of what will be their medium compound tyre stint or the start of their hard compound tyre stints. They don't want to lose too much time at this point in the race, and they will be continuing through onto what will be double figures at the end of this lap and trying to make the most of their opportunities to fight their way forward. Lap number 9, as I say, of 25, and all of the drivers have sort of settled into a rhythm now, and so I think this is going to be only overtakes made by those who are on the better compound of tyre than the other one. They won't be taking too many risks at this point because they're charging up for a final stint as Gabriel Moya gets as close to it as he has been to Alessandro Finn. Will move to the outside and will jump past the Alpine.
Yeah, this time he did have that DRS where Alessandro Finn did not, as race leader Josh Rothwell's come in together with Spezzi and Bennett Hayter. The other drivers so far not following yet. I was expecting Tom Wolfgram to come in a little bit earlier, but it looks like he's going for a little bit of a longer stint, so he try and can get an overcut done. I want to see in relation to Takubi where everyone's going to come out to. Takubi will be ahead of Bennett Hayter. That was to be expected, but it should be behind Spezzi and Josh Rothwell. Spezzi has actually jumped Josh Rothwell in pit lane. Great pit stop from the McLaren crew, and Takubi is 2 seconds behind, so he's managed to close down a little bit. But what we're going to see now, and I think this is why quite a few drivers gambled to start on the hards, the gap from Spezzi to Pesci up ahead, who hasn't made a pit stop just yet, is only 3 seconds. After that, it's 3.5 seconds back to the rest of the field. And with all these DRS trains, it will be very easy to lose a lot of time there. And where the hard runners are going to make their pit stop on those fresh mediums, will be catching up very quickly with them, and then with those fresher and softer compounds might be able to have an easier time overtaking the lot of them. So have to see if that does pay out the way that they want to do. It means for the other medium runners at least, they're trying to go for a little bit of a longer first stint.
Yeah, longer first stint looks to be the way that they're going to try and go as Ryan Jacobs gets through on Alessandro Finn and moves his way up into 6th place. Tom Wolfgram now is going to be trying to be all over the back of the Alpine and get ahead of the TRT man, as I think Alessandro Finn's actually going to duck into the pit lane, so it is going to be a longer first stint for Tom Wolfgram, meaning he'll have fresher tyres at the end, but of course that does mean that his tyres now will be absolutely knackered. Not too knackered though, because Kasper Jedrzejczyk and Jonas Orpel will also be on the same strategy, so they can't be too bad. And well, I do have access to the information for myself. I cannot share it though for fear of castration. Anyway, Tom Wolfgram is now just outside of the DRS of Ryan Jacobs, showing that that pace is not quite on the level of the hard compound tyre runners anymore, and so I think it's going to have to be a pit stop within the next couple of laps.
Yeah, they will have to do so quite quickly because Josh Rothwell has managed to get the jump back onto Spezzi, and he's now actually within the DRS window of Pesci, where the gap was almost 3 seconds just before. But Pesci's lost a little bit of time, and Rothwell's gained over 2 seconds. He's now very close to the back of that Mercedes, so it shows that the new tires are quite a bit quicker, and for Tom, he's now at risk of getting undercut by the drivers behind. Although not too many drivers behind, of course, were on the mediums just like him. I think most crucially, that was Formula Kai and Alessandro Finn, and they're quite a bit behind the rest of the pack for now, as Finn and Kai are actually fighting very hard for P16. Rothwell has gone ahead of Pesci. In the meantime, Spezzi is trying to make a move around the outside as well. He does do so nicely. Jeddah has come into pit lane. Tom Wolfgram has now also gone into pit lane. So your first championship protagonist is into pit lane. Let's see if this is a good stop.
We will hope so. For the purposes of the championship, he's going to go for that overcut onto the hard compound tyres, taking off those mediums, and the Ferrari will be coming out of the pit lane, of course, behind Katri Edrisek, who came in first. But will he be behind everybody, and actually right at the very back of the field? Indeed he will. He'll be behind even Alessandro Finn and Formula Kai, so he will need to really lock in now and start making those overtakes.
Yeah, he's lost crucially track position to the two drivers up ahead, and after that it will be a 4.5 second gap to the back of the main crew of D'Amico, Garcia, Jeddah, and a lot. For Takubi, he's done well with that earlier pit stop. He's now jumped up into provisional P3, so he's gone ahead of Bennett, Hayter, and Garcia, who were a bit slower earlier on. Jeddah staying out 2 extra laps now means that he's a whopping 4.5 seconds, almost 5 seconds behind the leading pack of Rothwell and Spezzi. So it looks like them two will be fighting out who is going to get the race win. Of course, unless of course they're going to see a dramatic loss of pace towards the end of the race. But we'll keep our eyes on Tom Wolfgram. How quickly can he dispatch the two drivers up ahead? But looks like the overcut has done him dirty.
Yes, it doesn't look as though for Tom Wolfgram that gamble ended up paying off, which is unfortunate, but he will continue on in this race, trying to gain anything from this last race of the season. There's nothing to lose now as Formula Kai runs wide and Tom Wolfgram tries to pull alongside. He's not going to quite have the overspeed into the final corner, but on the exit, he's not going to have the straight line speed either. The setup difference between himself and the McLaren is clearly that the McLaren is quicker in the corners, and the straight line speed benefits Formula Kai, so he will Tom Wolfgram will continue on trying to find gaps, and there will be gaps, but of course I don't think there's going to be 16 gaps, which is what he needs to take the race win.
And in the meantime, Josh Rothwell is busy overtaking the hard runners that have yet to take a pit stop. Jonas Orpel actually still out there on the mediums as well. But the good news for Orpel is that he can actually stay within touching distance of the hard runners. So still has very good pace. So that means he can extend that stint just a little bit longer and push very, very hard on those hards. And where those mediums towards the end of the second stint are going to deteriorate, he will have better tires, but of course will have to play catch up to all the drivers, because at this point he might end up behind even his teammate Tom Wolfgram, who seems to be stuck behind Formula Kai for the time being. Josh Rothwell, though, definitely does have a bit more speed, but how much quicker is he than the likes of Inversizo and the Alpine up ahead? Can he go for the overtake? We see Jonas Orpel, I think, come into pit lane. He does indeed. And round the outside, the Aston Martin of Josh Rothwell goes. He's now back into P4. Down the inside, Spezzi is going to make a very interesting move. A very late lunge onto Cizo. But they keep it clean, and he is ahead because Spezzi wants to stay within that second of Josh. And he manages to do so for now. Great overtake from the McLaren man.
Yeah, very good overtake from the McLaren man. In the meantime, Tom Wolfgram trying to make his way through on Formula Kai. Takubi and Pesci swapping positions as well, as there's a few moves in the order as we head over to the second half of this race. But Tom Wolfgram not able to make his way through on Formula Kai. He'll have the pressure of his teammate Jonas Orpel behind, although I'd imagine that he'll act as a rear guard, or maybe they will try to work together as a team to climb up further up the order and try to save face in the final race of this season. Gabriel Moore and Ryan Jacobs and Tom 97 now been caught up by Josh Rothwell, who's going to try to find a gap past Tom 97. Look to the inside line but Tom 97 cut it off. But in the end, Josh Rothwell opening up the DRS and making his way through nice and easily. We swarmed, but crucially for the V-Cubs, for Ryan Jacobs and for Tom 97, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because they're going to have to double stack, or one of them is going to have to go an extra lap.
Now, the good news, at least for Ryan Jacobs, is that he will be the first driver to take that decision. So if they do go into pit lane at the same time, which they don't, because here comes Tom 97 along with Gabriel Moya. So now Ryan Jacobs does lead the race for a little moment. We'll be very happy to at least say that after qualifying definitely wasn't what he was hoping for. But the great news for him is that Tom Wolfgram is still quite far behind. Tom Wolfgram has now actually gone up into P10. Of course, with all the hard runners making their pit stops, so he is back into the points. He's got the overtake done onto Formula Kai, but now the gap to Alessandro Finn is over a second, and then that gap again is 3.5 seconds to the next pack led by Takubi, who is in provisional P3. And then to the lead two cars is another 4.5 seconds. So a race win surely out of the question unless we see a safety car. Jędrzejczyk has actually left the session, so that's a very unfortunate disconnect for a man that was going for a potential podium and now is going to lose all that time to D'Amico and co. But will be holding up the rest of the bunch as well as Josh Rothwell retakes the race lead.
Yeah, Josh Rothwell retaking their race lead, and Victor Garcia finding a little bit of pace late on in this race to make his way past Kasper Jedrzejczyk, and also Spetsi making his way through on Ryan Jacobs. The next pressure for our championship leader will come from Takubi, who's 4.2 seconds down the road, so I don't imagine that that's going to be happening very soon indeed. Tom Wolfgram made his way through in Formula Kai, will be trying to make his way further up as Ryan Jacobs into the pit lane, and he will be making the switch onto a set of the medium compound tyres. So these tyres it's a weird situation here at Saudi Arabia, because the mediums almost last as long as the hard compound tyres.
Yeah, the medium's lasting very, very long indeed, as Ryan Jacobs now sees the entire grid fly past. I think only Pesci will stay behind him. It will be quite close with Axel on exit, and he will be crucially just ahead of the Haas driver. But he will be behind Cizo, Tom 97 and Gabriel Moya as he was before. But now it will be catching up to Jonas Orpo, and that gap actually is not all too much. But there are quite some intermittent gaps between the drivers before they get within that same DRS train. As of course, Kasper Jędrzejczyk is still losing heaps of time from that disconnect, meaning that Tom Wolfgram is going to get a free promotion up into P8. But then once again has to close the gap to Alessandro Finn, whose gap then is 3.2 seconds. Tom Wolfgram now trying to go through on the inside, does fly through nicely into P8, but still has a mountain to climb if it wants to get the race win. In turn, Ryan Jacobs has gone past Inversizo already, and he seems to have some great pace on those mediums early on.
He certainly does have pace, very, very good pace indeed. As they've come out of the pit lane and trying to maximise the pace now, as we might have a fight for the race lead. Spetsi looked to the outside, Josh Rothwell defended it, and Spetsi had a look to the inside line straight afterwards, but no going and no doing for the McLaren man, so he remains in behind Josh Rothwell for the time being. Just over a second between Tom Wolfgram and Alessandro Finn. Some point soon the Ferrari will be making his way into DRS range and will be making his way past as Gabriel Moya and Formula Kai swap, as the Tom 97 Kasper Jedrzejczyk. So I think the medium tyre runners are going to run rampant in this field late on, and Formula Kai right in behind Gabriel Moya. He's going to have pressure from Tom 97. I think these two might have been making the most moves this race. So Formula Kai and Tom 97 just fighting with each other. Kasper Jedrzejczyk back into the session. So unfortunate for the hard runner that he dropped down the order, but he's going to have to work his way back up.
Yeah, in the meantime, the good news for Tom Wolfgram is that he has a buffer of his teammate just behind him to try and hold off the charging cars of Moya, Tom 97, and in a bit Ryan Jacobs as well. Formula Kai won't be too much of a competitor because, of course, he's on 7-lap-old hards, whereas he is on 5-lap-old hards. But the gap up ahead still 1.1 second. We'll need to close in to Alessandro Finn and then hope they together can pair up to close in to the likes of Takubi up ahead, but even then P3 will be inside 6 seconds to the leading pair of Josh Rothwell and Spezzi. So it looks like they will be fighting it out for a race win, but I want to keep our eyes set on Gabriel Moya. He is one of the quickest men out there on track, and he's trying to gain more speed to get past Jonas Orpel up ahead. So far in the main straight, the gap is too much. So will he get stuck in those mediums, or will he be able to catch up as we see Tom Wolfgang make a little mistake into turn 1?
Yeah, a little mistake for the Ferrari, which means he might be under pressure from Orpel very soon. Might be under pressure from Moya as well, who will try to make his way through on the both of them. So at the moment they are just chasing in the pack at the moment, chasing for the points positions, which of course they do sit in, but of course they would have been hoping for a little bit more out of the final race of the season. Tom Wolfgram though gaining six places off of the start. So I'd say that strategy kind of has worked, but it hasn't quite worked out the way that he would have wanted it to, which would have taken him all the way to the top of the order. But instead he finds himself in 8th place. But it does look as though that was the strategy to go for today. It just hasn't quite panned out the way he wanted it.
No, and I think the main problem as well is that a couple of drivers were able to get away with it quite early on in the race, and that gap is now just building and building as DeMico is getting very close to his teammate Bennett Hayter in P4. Of course, that is going to be a fight for P3. Bennett Hayter getting the inside line there, but that means that DeMico is going to get the better exit. Now with battery, with DRS, he can perhaps try to get past his teammate, but look at Bennett Hayter fly past down that main straight. There's no chance that DeMico gets through, and down the inside, Victor Garcia is trying to make a move, but the next turn will be out the outside. Still almost side by side they go. Drajcik has retired from the race. Oh, I thought we had a safety car for a moment, but we thankfully do not. Formula Kai has received a 3-second time penalty though for track limits. The second driver to do so after Jeddah, who is now also retired from the race. DeMico just holding back Victor Garcia, and this is great news for the drivers behind. But look at that, Tom Wolfgram lost quite a bit of time, and he's lost 2 positions in the process. Has he made a mistake?
I think potentially there has been a mistake out there. I didn't quite see it, but it's very unfortunate for himself that has happened. But yeah, no safety car thankfully, but that would have spiced up the action very late on, although I don't think it would have split the field too much. Everybody managing to keep their pace pretty well matched, and well, they're doing a very good job at the moment to keep it within a second of each other. Only Takubi with a real sizable gap of 7 seconds at the cars ahead, then Pesci with 2.5, Formula Kai of course now with 3.5, as well he's clearly got a problem at the very back of that field. I think he's missing a decent chunk of that front wing. Oh no, he's not. That was just a weird texture issue. So Formula Kai at the back potentially having left the session, and then Jonas Orpel, Gabriel Moya and Alessandro Finn, the other drivers out of the DRS of the cars ahead as we cross over onto lap 20 of 25. 6 to go in our F4 season, and Josh Rothwell looks to be taking a very unlikely but very well deserved victory.
Yeah, he's been very, very strong throughout the night. He was very strong in qualifying, getting that pole by over a 10th. From Lakai now retiring from the session into pit lane, a 3rd retiree of the evening. But yeah, Rothwell poised to take a great result here tonight in the final race of the season, and he will only have to battle it out with Spezzi unless we're going to see a safety car in the next lap or two. That might be the only saving grace that Tom Wolfgram has in order to still win the race. But at the moment, the hopes of him taking the championship are dwindling further, and even though Ryan Jacobs finds himself in P12, it will be enough to take the title. Sadly for him though, if it stays as it is, it will also be the only race this season where he didn't score any points. So try to keep that streak going, Ryan. You need 2 more places to do so. As in the meantime, Jonas Orpel has managed to get past Alessandro Finn. So I think Alessandro Finn and maybe in a bit Gabriel Moya are still going to catch up with the likes of Garcia and everyone up ahead. And we might still see a very good fight for P3 as Pesci has picked up a 3-second time penalty for track limits.
Pesci, the first penalty of the race, to be fair, apart from Redmer's opening lap problems. But yeah, literally the only problems for any of these drivers here today. So they've been able to keep it on the straight and narrow, and they've been able to keep it relatively comfortable out there on the circuit. Victor Garcia had a look at D'Amico. He's had a really good comeback, has the Red Bull, because his pace early on was worrying. But ever since then, he's fought back quite impressively.
Yeah, he's done so quite well. Pesci's now also retired in pit lane after getting a speeding in pit lane, but I think he knew with the gap 3 seconds and then 3-second time penalty that his hopes for potential points were out of the window. In the meantime, Gabriel Moya seeming to drop some pace as well. He's starting to struggle a little bit more to try and catch up with Alessandro Finn. As Jonas Orpel in turn has managed to close the gap with Victor Garcia up ahead. So we're seeing those two trains joined in and more intertwined as they were before. Moya unable to catch up, as we said, so maybe Tom Wolfgram can try and get that overtake done onto him again and at least take P9 here tonight. For Ryan Jacobs, he needs to overtake his teammate first before he can battle it out with Tom. But I think the main driver we should be watching out for now, at least for the next couple of laps, will be Jonas Orpel before we're going to zone in on that race victory fight between Josh Rothwell and Spezzi.
Yes, he certainly will be trying to fight for the top. But of course, we will see what all of these drivers are going to be able to do in the last few laps of the race. I've just been invited by somebody called Spongy to join their session. I think I'll stay in the F4 race if that's all right with everybody, and maybe join afterwards. Ryan Jacobs is at the moment making that move and holding on to that position ahead of Tom 97. He won't pick up points today, but he won't care because he is our champion elect.
He is our champion elect indeed, with 4 laps still to go. We're on lap 22 of 25. And Jonas Orpel is starting to ramp up the pressure onto the drivers up ahead by quite a bit. He's on 8 lap-old hards. The drivers ahead of him, 11, 12, and even 13 lap-old hards. So we saw Jonas go for a very long first stint, and it seems like going for those extra lap, prolonging that stint by so much that he's now actually pushed himself into that fight for a potential podium. So great work on the strategy for the Ferrari man. But now he needs to get past. That will be the tricky part of this strategy. And his first target is Victor Garcia in the Red Bull. Can he already try to do so on this lap? Because he needs to get a car each and every lap if he wants to get to P3. He's going to try and close in towards turn 27 with the Red Bull. Try and get a better exit. Oh, Garcia had to take evasive action with D'Amico behind, and that means that Jonas Orpel can already dive to the inside. He's almost pushed into the wall. Side by side they go now down the main straight. Victor Garcia tries to stick it round the outside. Down the inside, out everything goes. Again, evasive action had to be taken by the Red Bull man. Contact made in turn 1 as well. But on the inside now, Jonas Orpel has to use a little bit of energy power to stay ahead. And he is ahead. P6 for the Ferrari man, but that overtake, Joseph, was not easy.
Yeah, very not easy for him. But he managed to work hard and gain that position in the end. So fair play, because it's just not very easy to make a move around the Saudi Arabian track. It feels very tight. It feels like the walls are kind of closing in on you every time that you go off of the racing line, which is why we haven't seen many overtakes here today. But we still have seen some, and the ones that we have seen have been very good, apart from, of course, the DRS ones that we've seen before they head into turn 1. But those are part and parcel of any race on F1 at 25, and in fact any F1 game, I think, because that's just the nature of the racing. It'll be very interesting to see next year when, of course, the F1 regulations are different. It'll be very fascinating to see what everybody does with that as Gabriel Moya runs wide and gains a penalty. And Jonas Orpel is going to get past D'Amico, who had a poor exit, and there was a little bit of a tap between the two. But in the end, Jonas Orpel making his way through. Big send from D'Amico into the final corner. Victor Garcia also under pressure from Alessandro Finn. So they're going to be 2 by 2 on the exit of the final one. And there is contact. Garcia and Finn both into the wall. And that is both of them all the way down the order. And it's going to be the end of their final PSGL races of the season.
That's such an unfortunate end for Garcia and Finn. There was no space there. And look at that. The fight for P3 is kicking off now fully with Takubi and Hader almost side by side. They go pushed off the track, back in track. Jonas Orpel is trying to mix in within that fight, but he has to stay behind just for now. He has that overspeed. But there's so much fighting going on all of a sudden. Things are kicking off in the final 2 laps. We just had that massive contact between Garcia and Finn. They're now outside the points. Wolfgram up into 8th. Jacobs into 9th. Then late set down the inside of Jonas Orpel. Massive wheel bang in with the Sauber. He's gone through. But that move was not clean and will surely be protested later on down the line. But Orpel only has one thing in mind, and that is a podium. And for that, he needs to get past Bennett Hader. DeMico and Takubi behind are fighting pretty hard as well, as DeMico wants to get down the inside of Takubi. He's now gone through. He's used that battery. He is ahead. We're seeing some crazy fights for P3, but we have to move to the fight at the start of the race, the beginning of this pack, because Josh Rothwell and Spezzi are going into the final lap. Them two will decide who gets the race win. Rothwell takes defensive move into turn 1. Side by side they go into turn 2, but still for now, Rothwell is ahead. He has the closer line, needs to stay ahead, but around the outside, Spezzi wants to use a bit of battery, stays behind for now, so first move has been taken care of, as Ryan Jacobs is actually up in P7 now, and Tom Wolfgram down to 10th.
Yeah, Tom Wolfgram down to 10th, and he's still fighting away with Tom 97, but we will try to stick on with the leaders on the final lap of this race, of course, because this is a fight for potentially 2 debut race wins for these drivers. Of course, they both have raced this season in F4, and for Spezzi, he has picked up a 2nd place last time out. It was the first time he'd even finished this season. And for Josh Rothwell, well, he's picked up a couple of points positions. So the Aston Martin will be trying to take that win, but a last-minute mistake for the Aston Martin. Huge shame. I think that's a puncher for himself. Josh Rothwell right at the death. A huge drama.
Oh no, that is so unfortunate. The man who was poised to take the race win, who was best in qualifying session, now retired from the session. So Wolfgram picked up a 3-second time penalty. That puncture is brutal. But here comes, round the outside, Jonas Orpel on the Williams of Bennett Hader. Orpel is down into 2nd. Spezzi takes the race win. The final podium place goes to Bennett Hader. But here is Ryan Jacobs, your champion of PCF4 Season 42. A P5 seals it for him. A great race all the way through. Tom Wolfgram comes through in P10. That is not enough. And Ryan is your new champion here in F4.
Yeah, big moment for Ryan Jacobs. Very thoroughly deserved to be taking that victory in the title, and very thoroughly deserved in the end for Spezzi to take the victory in that race. He needed his luck with Josh Rothwell on the final lap, who we feel massively bad for, or I certainly do. I don't know about you. You could feel brutal, but it was certainly a brutal moment for himself, and he will drop off and make it an all-German podium right there at the very top. It will be Spezzi taking the win ahead of Jonas Orpel, Bennett Hader in 3rd place, and DeMico with 4th and the final fastest lap of the campaign. Ryan Jacobs, our champion, in 5th, with Takubi in 6th. Tom 97 in Vasizo, Gabriel Moya and Tom Wolfgram round out the top 10. Alessandro Finn, Axel, Victor Garcia, and then Josh Rothwell round out the classified finishers. Pesci, Formula Kai, Kasper Jedrzejczyk and Redmers are down right at the bottom, and with our DNFs. But drama on the last lap of the campaign. That's pretty much exactly what we wanted to see.
Wow, that were some very intense final 2 laps, Joseph. But Heartbreak leading the race surely had a great opportunity to take his first race win of the season after that great qualifying session for Josh Rothwell. But that puncture, true heartbreak in the final race of this season 42 campaign. Spezzi takes it nonetheless. but I think the man that will be most proud of his achievements tonight will be Ryan Jacobs, because he is your champion of PCF4. Let's see if we can get some interviews going, because it would be great to hear from the drivers.
Oh, it certainly would do. It certainly would do, and I'd imagine that Ryan Jacobs will be wanting to be able to join us for this evening and celebrate his victory. But yeah, I mean, it's a thoroughly deserved championship. If you have a look at the campaign, of course, he was one of the only drivers. He was, in fact, I believe, the only driver to really be competing with Knott, Kunch and Patton before they got promoted. And he'll be seeking a promotion for next season, but he's happy to take that win away, I would imagine. Tom Wolfgram did push him close, but he needed to keep up such high expectations. But Ryan Jacobs, in fact, becoming the victor of the title, and I don't know how many times we've had this, without taking a single race win.
Yeah, indeed, not a single race win from him. He did take a couple podiums. Let's actually look at the standings so we can see that a little bit better. So tonight a P5 is going to be added, but that is 3 podiums, if I'm not mistaken, that he got throughout the campaign, with 2 second places and a 3rd place to his name. I'll get it done a little bit bigger so I can get that a little bit better, catch that a little bit better. And indeed, it was a 2nd place in Spain in the opening round, 2nd place in the States as well, and the 3rd podium, 3rd place in Brazil. And after that, I mean, just look at the consistency all the way through. 2nd, 8th, 6th, 2nd, 4th, 3rd, 6th, 6th, 4th, and now 5th in the final round. So some amazing consistency from Ryan Jacobs. For Tom Wolfgram, sadly, the last 3 races were great. First, and 3rd. But this last race could not be converted into a race win. And because of his race results here tonight, Joseph, also means that he won't get past Oliver Knott and Rafael Kunz, who were promoted after round 6. So he will finish 4th in the standings. Ryan Jacobs finishing off victorious here in F4. And it looks like we have Ryan Jacobs in the waiting room. Bennett Hayter did say he was available, but I think it's only fitting, Joseph, if we move on to the interviews and talk to our champion.
I think it's only fair, and I think it's only fair as well that you, Myth, because of, well, of course, you've been sticking around in the championship all season long. I think it's only fair if we let you speak to our, not just our champion-elect anymore, our champion overall.
There we go. He's been moved in. Our champion of PCF4 Season 42, Ryan Jacobs.
Hello, yes, we done it. We got there in the end. We crawled over the line. But we've done it. We have bloody done it.
You have bloody done it indeed, but that must not have felt great after that qualifying session.
Yes and no. I mean, I was a bit annoyed the quali, yeah, for sure. Like, I was on for a really good lap like sector 1. I was up, and then it didn't go to like my ERS strategy. I didn't get to go into medium for some reason, so I was just stuck in none. And yeah, it was really weird. And then I lost a 10th, and then in one corner I got a 10th back. So yeah, it was kind of crazy in that regard. And I was level, and then I hit the wall in the final corner. So that was just GG from there. But yeah, I knew about the race, man. I could recover it. I was confident in that regard. Like the strategy and my race pace. Like I think that's one thing that I've got to say has been like perfect for me this season. Has been my race and strategy. It's been really optimal. So I think you saw that today again. It saved me, just like it did Abu Dhabi last week. So yeah, I was disappointed in quali, but I knew the race, the pace was there.
Yeah, and I think that is the main thing to say about your season. Your consistency has really helped you prevail. Your worst classification was a P8, but your best qualification, or your best result in turn, was a P2. Are you sad that you didn't get a race win this season despite taking the title?
In a way, yeah. I mean, I had chances to win when it was Rafi and Oliver around me and Lorenz. It just didn't happen. But we were it's not like a bad thing in a way. I'd take, you know, not winning and winning the championship all day, every day, because, you know, I think it just shows the consistency, like you mentioned, this season that I've had. I haven't not finished in the points, and when it's been a bad track, I've still managed to score decent haul of points. And the pace has just been optimal every single week, and I got to say thank you to FVR. They have been unbelievable. Like, everybody's helped me out big time, from like F2 engineers, and it wouldn't have been done without them. And especially to my teammate Tom. You know, Tom's been the best teammate you could ask for. He's been sensational, start to finish. Helped me out big time. Like, Abu Dhabi let me go on the final lap. Belgium, he protected me from on the final laps as well. These are all big points which add up later in the championship, but we've worked really well together, and I see it as our championship rather than just mine, because Tom's played such a big role, and I think we might have, if I'm not wrong, also got the constructors. So if that's true, then that's massive as well.
Would not be surprised if you got that indeed. I don't have the full standings up to date for you on that part, but given the fact that you had a healthy lead there, would not be surprised if you got that as well. But some very kind words indeed from you for your teammate. But if we look all the way back on this season, so we've had our full 10 rounds now. Which of your races, which is the race that you think was the best one this season? Was that the season opener or another one?
I would say, yeah, probably the season opener. I peaked too soon, you know, peaked at round 1, but yeah, I think that was where I probably showed the best pace in terms of quality and race, and it was really strong for both. And I was keeping up with Oliver and pushing him all the way. I just didn't have the straight line speed to get him, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that was probably my best one. Kota was good as well, I thought, drove well there. I mean, the rest of it was just mid. Like, I think there was a couple of there was a P3 in there, I think, at one round. But yeah, I mean, I've done all right, I think, just to get there, cross the line. And I think it was never getting too high, never getting too low, you know, as the old saying goes. You know, you got to just stay grounded and just don't like beat yourself up after a bad round, you know. And that's what I tried to do, even when Tom was doing that bloody sensational prime Lewis Hamilton run where he just got pole and won, and I was like, oh Jesus, here we go, bottle of the century inbound. And that Abu Dhabi race just showed it was critical for me just to, you know, just finish behind him, and that's what we did in the end. And we kept it calm, kept it safe. And today, with Tom where he was, it was just a matter of keeping him behind. And I think it was just a really nice move on that penultimate lap, get down his inside and just go, yeah, champs here today, you know.
Champs here today, indeed. And now, we've now reflected on the previous season, but what are your hopes, perhaps, for the upcoming game?
Good question. I think it's just continue enjoying myself. Like, I could have gone up to F3 midway through this season, but where's the fun in that when I could fight for a championship, you know? This has been about league racing on this game. It's just been simply enjoyment. And I've had the most fun in a long time being teammates with Tom. Like, you could just talk to him and he's open. Like, I don't think there's anybody else on the grid apart from maybe Tashubi who would be willing to talk in the race and, you know, work off each other. And, you know, when it looked more likely that I'd be me in the championship, he, you know, sacrificed his races for me. And, you know, he didn't have to do that, and that's why I really am thankful for Tom, because if he, you know, if he wanted to be a bit more selfish when he was in front of me, he had every right to do so. You know, it's an individual championship, but you know, he prioritized me over him, and that's why, you know, I won this season. So hopefully, me and Tom can be in the same tier again next season. I think that'd be really fun. It's the most enjoyment I've had being in a league for a while. So yeah, although it's the end of the game, I'm kind of happy now. Have a little break, reset, and then just look ahead to the DLC, and you know, and hopefully me and Tom can be in the same tier. Depends on numbers again, and will we move up? I think potentially I might, because I won the championship, and considering it'll be the same game, I don't know what PSGL might be thinking on that regard. But yeah, hopefully down the line, me and Tom can stay teammates once again.
Well, we will find out all about that, of course, in the coming season. I'll have a question for you, a final question for you later on down the line. But I first want to move over the mic to Joseph. Do you have any questions for our champion?
No, I mean, it's just I've just got a huge congratulations to you for that performance, of course. And, well, in fact, I do have just one short question. What's the aim for that 26 DLC?
Yeah, it's just simply having fun, to be honest. Probably past that point, flying away, trying to get into development role or esports. It's more just simply enjoying it, man, and just having fun. Working with the team, FER, who, again, I can't thank them enough, and just, everybody in the team, I've got to thank them, from top to bottom. Everybody's just been really helpful, and I don't think I would have even got the top 5 finish today without them. So, the amount of support I get is just brilliant. So I can't speak highly enough. And yeah, I think for the next game, it's just continuing that, building on this momentum, and just having fun. That's it. Just having fun.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, congratulations. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, that is your F4 champion for this season, Ryan Jacobs. Thank you very much for joining us, Ryan.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
Yeah, before we go out, one final question for me, Ryan. How are you going to celebrate this tonight?
Be very nonchalant. Probably just chill. I haven't even had food yet, so I might just go out, grab a quick takeaway to celebrate. Maybe have a little snack or two. Yeah, it's just all about it's just a nice feeling, man. It's my first ever one as an individual, properly in a proper top competitive league. So I'm buzzing. Like, although I'm a bit nonchalant, I guess maybe not too nonchalant. Like, not like Otis where I'm over the top shouting and the whole engineer crew bursting through my door right now kind of thing. But yeah, I'm happy, man. It's just simply gonna just talk to people, I guess, and just celebrate that way.
Well, that's great to hear. Keeping it on the low, but celebrating it from the inside. Ryan, it was a pleasure to have you here this season, and hopefully we will see you again next season.
Yes, thank you very much to both of you for commentating. It really makes it better, and I can't wait to watch it back. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome indeed. Once more, your champion of PSGL Season 42 PCF4, Ryan Jacobs.
Cheers, lads.
Right then, Joseph, that seems to be all the interviews that we had tonight, but we've had quite a season here in F4. Now, sadly, throughout the mid of the season, I had to miss a couple of races. We did see the start of the season where it was some great fighting between Ryan, between Oliver, between Raphael, and also Lawrence. And then that late charge, as Ryan already rightfully pointed out, from Tom Wolfgram, getting very close to still beat Ryan to the title. But in the end, the consistency that did pay off. I think we have a deserved winner in Ryan Jacobs.
Very much so. I think it's just consistency is so very key in league racing and in racing in general, and that's exactly what he was able to demonstrate. So I think, yeah, fully deserved championship. Tom Wolfgram, good, but of course he took a while to get going in the season, didn't pick up many points until round number 7, where of course he went on a hot streak. So Ryan just demonstrating the requirement for consistency. But Tom Wolfgram, he'll try to set himself up after this season, and he's got the promise of the pace that he had. But of course, he just needs to be able to hook it all up.
He indeed does. And on that note, we are going to take our leave for season 42 as well. This was your season for PSGL PCF4 with your champion, Ryan Jacobs. We will see you again soon in season 43 in the updated game of F1 26. But until then, we'll see you. Good night.